at what I got. Oh my god. So I just saw a film. Well, not just saw a film. I saw it about a month ago when it first came out, and as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I had been gone because I recently got a job and I have school, and it's just all kind of overwhelming to me. So I'm trying to, make up for all of the reviews that I missed and all the movies that I've seen that I haven't reviewed yet. So yeah, this is just one of them. This is going to be a review on 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is a movie that came out last month, I want to say, in March, and yeah, so here are my thoughts on it. 10 Cloverfield Lane is a spiritual sequel, or as J.J. Abrams called it, it is a blood relative of the original Cloverfield. Please keep in mind that 10 Cloverfield Lane is absolutely not a direct sequel to the original Cloverfield. In no way, shape, or form does this movie even have the slightest to do with the original Cloverfield, although it does kind of have something to do with the original Cloverfield. And what I am actually going to do, I have never done this before, because I don't know if you guys are familiar with my channel or not, but I try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. I never talk about spoilers. I just, want you guys to witness the film for yourself. I just think, that gives a better experience than, making spoiler reviews and all that, because, I don't know, something could happen. Somebody could accidentally click on it and be like, you spoiled it for me, you asshole! But this is the first review where I'm actually going to include some spoiler talk at the very end of the video. So, yeah, I will give you guys a warning before that time comes, but I'm not only going to be talking about spoilers, but I'm also going to be talking about how this Cloverfield and the original Cloverfield are connected and do in fact have something to do with each other, because although a lot of people believe that they don't, they actually do have something to do with each other. They take place in the same universe, I guess is a best way to put it, but I will get into all those details later, and for now I'm just going to give my spoiler-free review for 10 Cloverfield Lane. 10 Cloverfield Lane follows a young woman played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I believe her name in the film is Michelle. And Michelle wakes up in this underground bunker just out of nowhere. She has no idea how she got there, when she got there, and it turns out that she's in this bunker because John Goodman saved her from a car accident of some sort. But John Goodman's character, whose name is Howard in the film by the way, basically tells Michelle that she cannot go back outside because the air is contaminated, and he tells her that it has something to do with some bombing threat or some sort of threat, he thinks pretty much that, we're at war with each other. He just says that the air is contaminated and that she cannot go outside because of that, and that she's actually going to have to stay in this underground bunker for a couple of years until the air is not contaminated anymore. And he says it is just absolutely not safe outside. So he just kind of, keeps her in this underground bunker with this other guy named Emmett, who you meet on later in the film. And a good 95% of the movie is just these three characters in this underground bunker, trying to, hide from whatever is happening outside. Michelle is actually, she does not trust John Goodman's character at all in the film. She thinks he's lying to her for some reason, so she kind of tries to find out, what's going on herself. And, yeah, the whole movie is basically, just about, who can you trust, in this sort of situation. And it's honestly a very, very great film. Now, I myself am a fan of the original Cloverfield. I do actually have the steelbook here. This is a very awesome steelbook, by the way. I would highly recommend it. But, yeah, I was a pretty big fan of the original. It's definitely one of the best found footage movies, in my opinion, to ever be made. It is, a found footage movie that kind of came out before found footage got popular, so, when it came out, it was very, very unique. A lot of people haven't seen this sort of thing before, especially, like, with a big, monster movie. The only, other found footage movies that came out before this one, I think, were, well, the most well-known ones. I know Cannibal Holocaust is technically a found footage film that came out in the 1980s, but not a lot of people knew about that one, but a lot of people knew about the Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity, which were both, horror films, but this one was more of like a monster film, like a giant monster attacking the city sort of thing. So it was a kind of a different take on this sort of subgenre, which was actually kind of neat, and I absolutely love the original Cloverfield. Like I said, I think it's one of the best found footage films out there, and it's a very, very great film. But I think the best thing about Cloverfield was the marketing. I don't exactly remember what happened in 2008 because I was only 11 years old when this happened, but apparently, there was just this trailer release, this secret project that J.J. Abrams was working on. I believe it was 1/18/08 it was called, because that was the release date that it was going to be released in theaters. And nobody knew what it was, and then, you know, they finally actually saw it in theaters and found out, oh, it's like a giant monster film. It's, you know, found footage style. So a lot of people found that to be pretty cool, and, you know, the fact that, you know, the marketing for this film was just so secret. They did not give a single thing away, like, at all. You know, there's a lot of people, you know, debating whether it was a Godzilla movie or, you know, just like a big monster movie. They had no idea what it was, and, you know, it actually turned out to be pretty damn good. And I think that's, you know, like I said, the marketing is really what made, you know, the original Cloverfield so effective, is because nobody knew what to expect. And, you know, that to me is marketing done right, because you don't know what to expect, and, you know, it turns out to be a really great film when you go in to see it. And it was also exactly with the case with this film. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but the trailer for 10 Cloverfield Lane was released, you know, earlier this year in January, when not a single person knew, you know, besides the filmmakers, of course, that this movie was coming out. Like, nobody knew that this thing was happening. You know, this trailer, like, appeared out of nowhere, just out of the blue. Nobody knew that this movie was happening, and just all of a sudden, you know, it's coming out like 2 months later, and people were just like, what the hell? How is this happening? Why is this happening? What? But yeah, and I also think that is another reason what made this film so effective, is the marketing. The trailer did not give anything away, and the fact that, you know, they only just released a trailer 2 months before the movie came out is what I think makes the movie very effective, because nobody expected it to come out. But yeah, I absolutely love how they do the marketing to these types of movies. It's just, it makes the movie so much more better, so much more effective, because the trailers do not give anything away. And I absolutely love, you know, going into a movie not knowing what to expect, because to me that just makes for a better movie-going experience. But it's crazy, because 10 Cloverfield Lane is nothing like the original Cloverfield, like, at all. These are two completely different movies. There are people who loved the first Cloverfield and hated the, you know, the 10 Cloverfield Lane, because it had nothing to do with the original Cloverfield, and what people were expecting was a movie like the original Cloverfield, and it really was not like that at all. And there's also people who hate the original Cloverfield who love this movie because it's much more different in that it's more of a psychological thriller than, you know, a big monster horror movie like the first one was. This one is more of a psychological, you know, I think drama would even be like a better word to describe it, because it's a very, very slow-moving film. You know, it builds a lot of tension. This is a very intense movie, by the way. I forgot to mention this, but this film is very intense. You know, the way the movie just builds up tension is awfully slow. It's very, very slow, but as slow as the movie is, you know, every single second my eyes were glued to the screen. You know, I was just into this movie, you know, 100%. But this film does a very good job at building tension. And yeah, like I said, these two movies are completely different. It's nothing like the original. The original is nothing like this one. And I think that's kind of what threw a lot of people off. A little funny story before I continue this review, but as I mentioned before, I do work at a movie theater. And I had this couple, you know, coming in to see 10 Cloverfield Lane. And I was working the door that day, you know, I was, you know, in charge of ripping the tickets, telling the people where the theater was. And the couple comes back, like, not even 45 minutes later, they come back to me and they said, hey, this movie was not what I expected at all. Is it okay if I could get a refund for my ticket? And that right there should really tell you how different these two movies are. They are completely different. They are nothing like each other. And much like the couple, I'm sure that there was a lot of people, you know, who were just thrown off by this film because it was nothing like the first one. But yeah, it's definitely not a direct sequel to the original Cloverfield at all, but it does have some stuff to do with it. Before I get into all that stuff, there is still a couple of things that I want to get off my chest. John Goodman's character is phenomenal in this film. This is, not kidding, probably one of John Goodman's best performances he has ever done in his career. This is a great performance. Like, probably even Oscar-worthy performance, honestly. He does an amazing job playing just this scary guy, this very intimidating guy. You don't know whether to trust him or not. You don't know if he's crazy. You don't know if he's just smart. Like, he just does such a good job of playing this character, you know. This is like the perfect role for, you know, this kind of character. And John Goodman, you know, he definitely pulled it off. He gave an amazing performance in this movie. And it's honestly one of the best things about this film, if not the best thing about this film. And the other two characters are also very, very good in this film. But John Goodman's character, he knocks it out of the ballpark. How does that saying go? The film is directed by Dan Trachtenberg, I believe it is, and this is actually his directorial debut. This is the first movie he's ever done, and honestly, for a first-time director, he did a damn well good job, you know, making this movie. Like, this is a very, very well-made film, and the screenplay is also written by Damien Chazelle, who I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he's actually the director of the film that came out in 2014, Whiplash, which is one of my personal favorite movies. You know, I absolutely love Damien Chazelle just because of Whiplash, and the fact that he's involved with this movie just kind of makes me a little happy because, yeah, this is a great movie. The acting was very, very good, and like I said, the film does such a good job of building tension. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, you know, watching this movie. I wanted to know what happened next. I was just so into the movie. I thought it was great, guys. And I would even say that 10 Cloverfield Lane is just as good, if not probably better than the original Cloverfield, honestly. I love this movie to death, guys. This is probably even one of the best movies I've seen this year so far. And I wouldn't be surprised if it even made it in my top 10, you know, best movies of 2016 list. I absolutely love this film. And like I said, you know, it just depends on, you know, the kind of movies you like, because these are two completely different films. The original Cloverfield is a big monster movie, and this one's just kind of like a slow burn psychological drama. Like, they have nothing to do with each other, but I thought this one was just a tad bit better, you know? It was just a little bit better. There's just something about it. And like I said, it's kind of hard to compare these two movies because they're so different. Like, I love them both, but if I had to choose one, it would probably be this one. I think I like this one just a little bit more. But yes, 10 Cloverfield Lane, guys, it is a great film. Just do not let, you know, the fact that these two movies are completely different and that this is not a sequel to Cloverfield, just don't let that throw you off. Maybe if you knew that, then you will like the movie a little bit more, knowing that. Of course, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sure half of you who are watching this review have already seen it, because it's already been out for almost a month, so whoops. But yeah, guys, 10 Cloverfield Lane, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was just a little bit better than the first, and I'm gonna go pretty high on this one, guys. I'm gonna give this film a 4.5 out of 5. I absolutely love this film. Definitely one of the best movies I've seen this year. It's such a great movie. I loved it. I loved every second of it. That was a great psychological thriller. John Goodman's character cannot get enough of, you know, just how great, you know, he played that character in this movie. It was crazy. But yeah, so that's about it for, you know, my non-spoiler review. And now it is time to talk about how this film and the original Cloverfield are connected. And like I said many times throughout this review, this may contain spoilers, so in case you guys have not seen the movie yet, I highly encourage you to stop the video right now. I already gave my rating for this film, so there's no need to watch it any further unless you've already seen the movie. So here I go, starting now. Although Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield are like two completely different movies, they still have, you know, they have some stuff to do with each other. There are still some things in each of the movies that kind of connect, and although I wouldn't really call them sequels per se, you know, like J.J. Abrams says, they're more like blood relatives or like a spiritual sequel. But here's just one of the things that how the original Cloverfield and this one are connected. In the original Cloverfield, it is hinted that the monster was awoken, you know, from a satellite crashing into the Pacific, or not the Pacific Ocean, it takes place in New York, whoops. That a satellite crashes into the Atlantic Ocean and awakens the monster. You know, that's how the monster ends up attacking the city, is because the satellite goes down, you know, wakes up the monster. John Goodman's character in 10 Cloverfield Lane says that he has worked with satellites. That's what he says. He says he's worked with satellites before, and, you know, the fact that he kind of knows a lot about, you know, survival things and just, you know, how to... The guy has like an underground bunker, you know, with a bunch of just like stocked food and all that. So this guy definitely knows what he's doing. So yeah, but he says that he, you know, used to work with satellites, and that, you know, what his job was. So what I'm thinking is that John Goodman's character, you know, kind of had something to do with the awakening of the monster from the original one. And also, the aliens in 10 Cloverfield Lane are, as you probably know, a lot different than the monster in Cloverfield. The monsters in 10 Cloverfield Lane are almost kind of like, it reminded me of the aliens from SKYLINE. I don't know if you guys have heard of that movie or not, but it's a movie that came out a couple of years ago. It was a kind of a bad movie, but in a way it's also kind of fun. I don't know, it's one of my guilty pleasure movies, but the aliens in this movie definitely were a lot similar to the ones in SKYLINE, so maybe this is a direct sequel to Skyline, who knows? Maybe Skyline and Cloverfield are connected, what? No, that's probably not the case, but point being, the aliens in this film are much more different than the monster in the original Cloverfield, and you know, because of that fact, I think that's what a lot of people thought, you know, is kind of what made this movie, like, had nothing to do with the original Cloverfield at all. And that's kind of like why I think a lot of people were upset with this movie. But here's a theory. This is just a theory, not saying this is true, but this is a theory. I think that this movie is a sequel in a sense that it kind of happens after the events of the first one, you know? I think, or I guess kind of sort of during, because of the fact that she was in that car crash and then she woke up in the bunker and then John Goodman's character, you know, shows up. I think, you know, all of the entirety of the original film just kind of took place, you know, in that, you know, moment of when she was in the car accident towards to where she wakes up in the bunker, and John Goodman's character tells her that, you know, the air is contaminated. What I think happened is, I'm thinking this is like a Prometheus sort of deal. I don't know if you guys have seen Prometheus or not, but, basically what I think is that, the original monster in Cloverfield, you know, lived, or I wouldn't say lived, but he was sleeping, you know, somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, and, you know, the satellite that crashed down woke him up. And because this monster in the original Cloverfield woke up, I think that kind of alarmed, I guess is a good way to put it. It alarmed, you know, these extraterrestrial species just from another planet, another universe. I don't know what, you know, where these things came from, but I think the monster in the original Cloverfield and the aliens in this one, although they look very different, have something to do with each other. I think they are connected in a way. I don't know how. I haven't really, you know, found the answers to that yet. I don't know how they're connected, but I think they are. And I think in a way, you know, because of the fact that the alien in the original Cloverfield woke up, it just kind of, you know, let these other aliens know in this film, like, hey, you know, there's some shit going down in this planet, so we're going to come here now. So I think that's kind of like what made all these other aliens, you know, try to come and invade Earth, was because of the fact that the satellite came and crashed down and awoken the monster from the original Cloverfield. But again, this is all just speculation. This is all just my theory. Not saying this is all completely true. For all we know, this could just be, you know, a movie that somebody made and just slapped the title Cloverfield on it and said, there, just call it Cloverfield, it'll make a lot of money that way. Because before they came up with the idea that this should be a Cloverfield movie, this was actually based on a script called The Cellar. You know, that was what the original title of the film was gonna be, but I guess the people who created Cloverfield, you know, came in contact with the script and decided to turn it into, like, a blood relative of Cloverfield and called it 10 Cloverfield Lane. But I think that the original script kind of has nothing to do with the original Cloverfield, so I don't know. It's kind of weird, honestly. I really don't know, you know, if this is, like, literally, if these two movies have something to do with each other, or if this is just a movie that they, you know, slap the title Cloverfield on to make more money. I really don't know, but in my opinion, I do think that these two movies have something to do with each other, just because this movie was based off of a script, you know, that had nothing to do with the original Cloverfield movie. I don't think that means that these movies have nothing to do with each other. I do think there are little connections in each of the movies that these guys are making. And another thing that I found out about this film is that, or about these two movies and how they're connected, is that the original Cloverfield is quite obviously taking place in New York, as the poster, you know, clearly states this movie's taking place in New York. But the, in 10 Cloverfield Lane, the movie actually takes place in Louisiana, because Michelle is leaving from New Orleans to Louisiana. So these are two completely different, you know, locations. And I think a lot of people forgotten about that, you know, that these two places are, you know, completely different locations. That the first one is in New York and this one is in Louisiana. So that's, I think, a reason why the monster, the original Cloverfield, does not show up at all in this movie, because they are, you know, two completely different states. Like, they're nowhere near each other, which also kind of supports my theory that, you know, that's kind of why, you know, there's aliens invading other parts of the world, you know, because this monster awakened in the Atlantic Ocean in New York. And, so yeah, I think that's kind of interesting, honestly. I think that's just definitely, you know, a very interesting, you know, little touch they added to the movie. But the reason why this movie's called 10 Cloverfield Lane is because at the very end, I don't know if you guys caught it, but there is a mailbox that falls down, and the mailbox clearly says 10 Cloverfield Lane. So it's a street named Cloverfield in a completely different state. So that's kind of interesting if you really think about it, because they're, like I said, two completely different locations, which is why the original monster is not in this location, instead it's in New York, and that's why, you know, there's much different looking aliens in this one, and that's kind of why I think these two, you know, monsters are in a way connected. I don't really know how again, but I think they are connected in a way. But yeah, guys, so far that is the only, you know, little things that I've noticed so far that I've actually caught. This is definitely a movie that I, you know, need to see a couple more times in order to, you know, completely catch all of the connections between this one and the original one. But as soon as I buy this movie on Blu-ray, I'm going to watch it, and, you know, I'm going to make sure that I caught everything to see if there's, you know, any other connections to these two movies. And I really honestly hope that there is a third movie coming out, because I would absolutely love to see you know, a third movie to this somewhat connected, you know, universe of some sort. I think what they're doing here is very interesting, and I think there is something, you know, definitely gonna be coming out in the near future that kind of, you know, brings it all together. At least I'm hoping. I think that would be really, really cool. But I think, you know, there is a reason why these two movies exist, even though they have nothing to do with each other. Somehow, in some way, this is all gonna connect. This is all gonna make sense somehow, I hope at least. But yeah, so those are just my thoughts, you know, my speculations of how these movies are connected. And yeah, like I said, really hoping for a third one. I'm sure they're going to make one soon. I really hope so. Hopefully it won't take another 8 years. I really don't want to wait that long, because I really love these movies, and I really want it to be, you know, like a whole sort of universe kind of thing. That would be so awesome. But just like from, you know, different people's point of views in different locations in the United States, you know, as this whole phenomenon is happening, I think that would be pretty damn cool if they did that. But yeah, so again, those are just my thoughts. Sorry I kind of rambled on this, you know, way too long. But yeah, so that's about it. That's about all I have to say for 10 Cloverfield Lane. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am Jacob Palacio, and I will see you guys later.